Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking on a titan, someone whose shadow just stretches across all of sports history.
A huge one.
We've got a massive single source, the career of one Michael Phelps. And our mission is, I think, pretty clear: to move beyond the staggering statistics and extract the essential, the human story. How does one athlete maintain that kind of dominance for over a decade and really transcend his sport?
Well, the statistics are the headline. You can't ignore them. We're talking about 28 Olympic medals, 23 of them gold.
It's just an absurd number.
It is. But
Yeah.
that number, it's a historical marker. It's not the story. So today, we're charting a journey across 5 Olympic cycles that requires this unparalleled physical dedication, but also navigating these really intense internal battles, fierce rivalries, and ultimately finding profound personal growth after, hitting rock bottom. This is the story of sustained, relentless excellence.
Absolutely. The number 28 is almost abstract, isn't it? It's more than twice the medal count of the next closest swimmer. I mean, that level of consistency is the core mystery we're trying to unlock today.
Right.
And while he is, of course, universally recognized as the most decorated Olympian of all time, the names that stuck to him are so evocative. The Baltimore Bullet.
And the flying fish.
Yeah.
And those nicknames, they point to his style, right? The speed and that fluid, almost aquatic movement.
Exactly.
And the primary records that cement his untouchable legacy, we have to state them up front. He's the all-time leader in Olympic gold medals, that's 23. The leader in individual Olympic gold medals, 13. And the leader in individual Olympic medals overall, 16.
That 13 individual gold count?
Yeah.
That's the one that connects him to, ancient history.
It is, but we'll dive into that detail a little later.
Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
We're starting the journey right at the beginning, in Baltimore, where this combination of innate talent and a need for structure first kind of collided.
Sure.
So Michael Phelps, born June 30, 1985, in Baltimore, Maryland. He was the youngest of 3 kids. He had 2 older sisters, Hillary and Whitney, and they're both competitive swimmers. His mother was a middle school principal, which I think says a lot, instilling that sense of discipline. And his father was a retired Maryland state trooper.
So when he first got into the pool, was it about this dream of Olympic glory, or was it something much more practical?
Oh, it was pure utility, especially when you consider his later struggles. He started swimming at age 7, and yeah, partly he was following his sisters into the pool, but the critical factor was just the need for an outlet for his immense energy. He had trouble sitting still. Swimming became this structured environment, like a liquid cage, if you will, to burn off energy that was otherwise really disruptive.
And that need for an outlet, both emotional and physical, it was compounded by some really foundational emotional struggles early on, wasn't it?
That's exactly right. The source really highlights a pivotal personal challenge. His parents divorced in 1994. Michael was 9 years old. And he later revealed that this event had and I'm quoting him, severe negative impact on him and his siblings.
Yeah. And that period right after the split, it was marked by a really distant relationship with his father. It just created this wellspring of emotional complexity. I mean, we often look at the high-achieving athlete and we just forget the foundational vulnerability. For Phelps, swimming really quickly transitioned from just an activity to a refuge and a metric for control in his life.
And coupled with all that upheaval, there came an official diagnosis that really explains why that structured activity was so essential to his success.
Exactly. While he was in the 6th grade, Michael was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. And this diagnosis is absolutely crucial to the story.
Right.
ADHD means you have a constantly firing high-energy brain. The rigid, repetitive, all-consuming nature of elite swimming, that relentless black line at the bottom of the pool, it was the perfect mechanism to channel that energy, to focus that hyperactivity into a singular productive obsession. Without that structure, you could argue, that energy might have gone in far less productive ways.
So swimming wasn't just a hobby. It was, in a way, kind of a self-medication through structure. And even at this young age, the results were already showing the inherent talent.
The talent was explosive. I mean, by the age of 10, he already held a national record for his age group in the 100-meter butterfly.
The butterfly.
The butterfly, yeah. Which, of course, would become his signature event. It's a stroke that demands this unique blend of power and rhythm and flexibility. That early indication of mastery in what is the most technically demanding stroke, it just signaled a once-in-a-generation talent.
And that rapid development, that raw, focused energy, it brought him to the essential professional relationship of his life. The one with Coach Bob Bowman.
Oh, absolutely.
He started training under Bowman in the North Baltimore Aquatic Club at age 11. What made this pairing so essential, particularly for an athlete, struggling with focus?
Well, it was an immediate symbiosis of extremes. You had Phelps, who was this immense raw energy, and then you had Bowman, who was this immovable force of discipline. Phelps himself famously characterized Bowman as a drill sergeant.
Right, a drill sergeant.
And that wasn't a casual compliment, you know? It really speaks to the rigor, the lack of excuses, the unyielding regimen that Bowman enforced. For an athlete with ADHD, this regimented structure provided the external focus his brain needed. He was essentially outsourcing the organizational function to Bowman.
And what's fascinating is the longevity of that dynamic. I mean, he didn't just train under Bowman for a few years. He followed him across the country for nearly 2 decades.
That continuity is almost unheard of in modern elite sports. It really is. Phelps followed Bowman from Baltimore to the University of Michigan after the 2004 Olympics. And it's a vital detail that, Phelps attended classes there for 4 years, but he never formally pursued a degree.
The priority was always training.
Always. He followed Bowman back to Baltimore later on, and then finally, for his last push toward Rio in 2015, he moves across the country to Arizona to continue training under Bowman at Arizona State University.
And Phelps himself put it so simply. Training with Bob was, quote, the smartest thing I've ever done. That long-term trust, that continuity, it allowed them to evolve his training based on his physical and mental state over 16 years. That has to be the key to his longevity.
Oh, it allowed for consistent incremental adjustments rather than these radical shifts, which is just essential when you're training for multiple events across 5 Olympics. Bowman was able to manage the physical load while simultaneously managing the mental load and, preventing burnout by constantly setting new, challenging goals.
Okay, before we move on to his global ascent, we have to tackle the most famous and maybe the most persistent myth about his training, the legendary diet.
Ah, yes, the 12,000 calories a day myth. This became a media sensation, right? It painted him as this machine just fueled by excessive junk food.
I remember the diagrams of the pancakes and the pizzas.
Exactly. But the reality, according to Phelps himself, is that this number was wildly exaggerated. He stated he did not eat that much, not even during his peak growth and training phases.
But okay, even if it wasn't 12,000, his caloric intake must have been astronomically high to support that workload. What does the science tell us about what he actually needed?
Even a high-end estimate would put him around 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day during peak preparation cycles, which is still staggering.
Still incredible.
It is. I mean, you have to consider the mechanisms at play here. When you train 2, maybe 3 times a day, 6 days a week, often logging over 50 miles in the pool, and crucially, training for multi-event success, like the 400 IM your body, is constantly cycling between aerobic endurance, anaerobic power, and recovery. The energy expenditure is massive. It demands huge carbohydrate and protein reserves just to maintain weight and recover muscle tissue. So yeah, the myth was great for headlines, but the reality was a still extraordinary yet highly disciplined intake supporting one of the most demanding training regimens in history.
So with Bowman's discipline and that raw talent now channeled, Phelps goes from a hyper-focused local star to an Olympian very, very quickly. Let's talk about his Olympic debut at the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney.
Sydney was his global introduction, and just making the team was a historical feat in itself. At just 15 years old, Phelps qualified for the U.S. Olympic swim team. He became the youngest male to do so since 1932.
That's a 68-year gap.
A 68-year gap. The achievement wasn't about the medal, it was about the arrival. It was him saying, I'm here.
And he finished 5th in the 200-meter butterfly final. So no medal, but immense experience.
Exactly. It proved he belonged on the world stage. And then, just a few months later, that experience translated into genuine world dominance.
This is where he starts just rewriting the world record books, right?
Yes.
And very specifically, he targets the 200-meter butterfly, the event where he just came up short in Sydney.
Yes. At the World Championship Trials in March 2001, at 15 years and 9 months old, he broke the world record in the 200-meter butterfly. This meant he became the youngest male ever to set a swimming world record, and he surpassed the previous holder, the Australian distance freestyle legend Ian Thorpe. This was the first seismic shift. It established Phelps not just as a great swimmer, but as a record breaker in his teens. Then later that year at the World Championships in Fukuoka, he wins his first world title, breaking his own world record.
So the next 2 years, the lead up to Athens, it just felt like this steady accumulation of speed and confidence.
They were absolutely critical development years. He started blending his signature strokes. At the 2002 Pan Pacs, he set an American record in the 200 IM. And crucially, He lowered the world record in the 400 IM, which is the ultimate test of a complete swimmer, showing that early mastery over all 4 strokes. He won multiple gold and silver medals, including a world record with the 4x100 medley relay team. His butterfly split on that relay, 51.1 seconds, was at the time the fastest ever recorded.
But it was the 2003 World Championships in Barcelona that really cemented his status as a multi-event phenomenon, not just a butterfly specialist.
It was a tour de force. He secured 4 gold medals, 2 silver, and broke an astonishing 5 world records during that competition. We see the butterfly dominance continue, breaking his 200-meter world record again, becoming the first man under 1.54.000. But the IMs, that's where the real drama was.
He absolutely crushed the 200-meter individual medley world record twice in 2 days. Was there a specific external trigger for that level of performance?
Oh, there was a distinct psychological element, which is so key to understanding Phelps's mind. Phelps later admitted he was fueled by a critic, Don Talbot, who had called him unproven despite his previous success.
Oh, that's all you need to hear.
That's it. Phelps used that dismissive comment as intense motivation, and he just targeted the 200-meter IM. This establishes a pattern we're going to see again and again. Phelps thrives not just on competition, but on direct challenges and perceived slights. He uses external doubt as internal fuel.
And that rivalry mindset extended even to the 100-meter butterfly, where he had to settle for silver in 2003.
That event was a duel with his American teammate, Ian Crocker. Phelps broke the 100-meter fly world record in the semifinals, only for Crocker to break it again in the final, becoming the first man under 51 seconds.
Wow.
So Phelps, despite swimming faster than his former world record, had to settle for silver. This back-and-forth rivalry wasn't just physical, it was a race for psychological supremacy, and it just set the stage perfectly for 2004.
Which brings us to the 2004 Athens Olympics, his first major medal haul. The world was watching to see if this teenager could deliver on all the hype.
And he over-delivered. The trials alone were historic. Phelps became the first person to qualify in 6 individual events for a U.S. Olympic team.
6 individual events.
Just immense versatility. And strategically, he dropped the 200-meter backstroke to focus on the 200-meter freestyle because he wanted to race Ian Thorpe. He prioritized the biggest challenge over maximizing his medal count, an early sign of his competitive ethos.
The final result was tying a record for most medals at a single games, a mark set by Soviet gymnast Alexander Dityatin. 8 total medals, 6 gold and 2 bronze.
The medal haul was fantastic, but I think the learning moments really came in the losses and the rivalries.
Okay, let's focus on that. The 200-meter freestyle, which was dubbed the race of the century. This was the moment he went head-to-head with Thorpe, the global superstar.
It was an incredible spectacle. You had Phelps versus Thorpe versus Peter van den Hoogenband. Phelps ended up 3rd, taking the bronze. And crucially, that outcome immediately ended all the media hype that he might match Mark Spitz's 7 golds right there in Athens.
Right.
But Phelps's reaction was incredibly insightful for a 19-year-old. He said, "How can I be disappointed? I swam in a field with the 2 fastest freestylers of all time." It wasn't about excuses. It was about recognizing the level of competition and showing respect, even in a high-stakes defeat. He banked that experience.
But he did secure 4 individual golds in Athens, including the 400-meter IM, where he set a new world record. And the 100-meter butterfly final was the culmination of that simmering rivalry with Ian Crocker.
He won that race by 0.04 seconds, the tiniest of margins, clinching the gold. And this led directly to a key moment of sportsmanship and leadership that's often cited as a turning point in his character.
Okay, I want to challenge the motive here, though. Was deferring his guaranteed spot in the 4x100-meter medley relay final to Crocker really just pure sportsmanship? Or was it maybe a calculated strategic move to reduce internal team tension before the final? Can we see it as an act of powerful leadership rather than just pure kindness?
It was both, but I think it was primarily leadership. The spot was guaranteed to Phelps after his individual win, but Crocker had been struggling severely. He'd been battling sickness. He had a disastrous start in the freestyle relay. By deferring the spot, Phelps ensured the best possible outcome for the team. Crocker, desperate for redemption, was now highly motivated for the final. It was a massive psychological boost for Crocker and a removal of potential team friction. The move demonstrated that Phelps, despite his individual focus, recognized the crucial need for collective morale. And he still earned the gold medal by swimming in the heats, but that act of selflessness, it just resonated far beyond the pool deck.
It sets the stage perfectly for the years of utter dominance that followed. So coming out of Athens, Phelps is a global celebrity. But the period between 2005 and 2007, it wasn't just a straight line to Beijing. It involved a lot of strategic experimentation with the goal of maximizing his potential.
Absolutely. At the 2005 World Championships trials, Phelps and Bowman made a conscious decision to drop two of his guaranteed specialty events, the 400 IM and the 200 fly, to test himself in the longer freestyle events, the 400 free and 100 free.
So an experiment.
It was exploratory work. They wanted to see if he could challenge Thorpe's legacy, and it proved he was still refining his focus, because at the World Championships, he failed spectacularly in the 400-meter freestyle, finishing 18th overall, and he took 7th in the 100-meter freestyle final.
So he quickly confirmed that his superpowers were in the medley and the butterfly, not in pure distance freestyle. And we see the return to dominance almost immediately after that, using the setback as fuel.
Oh, the rising tide of 2006 and 2007 was palpable. The focus was back on his signature events. At the 2006 Pan Pacs, he broke two long-standing individual world records, the 200-meter butterfly, his first individual WR in 2 years, and the 200-meter IM. He swept 5 gold medals. He was regaining momentum.
And then 2007 served as the perfect warm-up, really foreshadowing the impossibility of what was to come in Beijing.
The 2007 World Championships in Melbourne was just astonishing. Phelps won 7 gold medals, officially tying Mark Spitz's record for a global long course championship, which Spitz had set at the 1972 Olympics.
And he broke 5 world records during this competition.
5. Including finally breaking the 200-meter freestyle world record that Ian Thorpe had held for 6 years. He was only prevented from winning 8 golds because the 4x100-meter medley relay team was disqualified for a false start during a heat changeover. He proved he had the physical and mental capacity for an 8-gold performance a year early.
Which brings us to 2008, the impossible 8 in Beijing. This wasn't just about winning. It was about destroying records and dominating under the most intense pressure imaginable.
The pressure was immense. The trials confirmed he was prepared, as he set 2 new world records in the 400 IM and 200 IM. But the Olympic schedule, it just demanded perfection, rest management, and mental fortitude unlike anything seen before.
Take us through the high points, starting with gold medal number 1, the 400-meter individual medley.
He established the tone of relentless speed immediately. He broke his own world record by nearly 2 seconds, clocking 4.03.84. And what's fascinating here is the sheer durability of that record. It stood as the longest men's long course world record in history until 2023.
15 years.
What? Because the 400 IM is the ultimate test. It requires mastery of power for the fly, back endurance, leg strength for the breaststroke, and closing speed for the free. And for Phelps, his unique physical dimensions, that unusually long torso, short legs, large feet, and double-jointed ankles allowing for 15-degree increased flexion, they gave him a genetic advantage, especially in the butterfly and those crucial underwater dolphin kick phases that define the 400 IM. He simply optimized his physical destiny.
Gold medal 2, the 4x100-meter freestyle relay, provided the first massive dose of drama.
That was the legendary race. It's arguably the moment the wider world understood the scale of his endeavor. Phelps swam the leadoff leg, but the focus shifted entirely to the final 100 meters.
With Jason Lezak.
With Lezak. France's Alain Bernard, the world record holder, had boasted about smashing the Americans. Lezak dove in more than half a body length behind Bernard. He had to unleash this monumental anchor leg, swimming a 46.06 split, the fastest relay split ever at the time, to surge past Bernard in the final 5 meters, winning by an infinitesimal 0.08 seconds.
Just pure theater. And Phelps later confirmed that Bernard's smack talk had, quote, fired me up more than anything else. That external motivation strikes again.
Absolutely. The universe conspired to give Phelps the psychological fuel he needed. Then gold medal 4, the 200-meter butterfly, involved a piece of legendary athletic improvisation.
Right. He won despite swimming the second half of the race essentially blind.
Yes, his goggles filled up with water right after his first flip turn. So you have to imagine swimming the 200-meter butterfly, a complex, demanding event, and losing all visual reference for the last 100 meters.
How does he maintain world record pace?
It was a demonstration of unparalleled internalized pace and feel for the water. He didn't rely on sight. He relied on muscle memory and the internal rhythm of his stroke count. He knew exactly how many strokes it took to get from the wall to the flags and from the flags to the finish. He still won and set a world record of 1.52.03. And that victory also made him the all-time leader in Olympic gold medals with 10 total, a record that had stood for decades.
Gold medal 7 brought perhaps the greatest controversy, the slimmest margin, and the ultimate psychological duel.
The 100-meter butterfly against Milorad Ovic of Serbia. Ajovic had been aggressive in the media, stoking the flames, saying he'd be happy if Phelps lost and that he, quote, would like to be that guy who stopped him.
And Phelps won by just 0.01 second.
1/100th of a second. The margin was so small the Serbian delegation filed a protest.
So how did the governing body handle a margin that fine?
This is where we need to understand FINA, the international governing body for aquatic sports. Because the timing was so tight, FINA had to use high-speed video analysis. The review involved frames shot at 110,000th of a second intervals to officially confirm that Phelps's fingertips had triggered the pad just before Habic's full-body glide had reached the wall.
Incredible.
Mark Spitz, watching, called Phelps the greatest racer who ever walked the planet. It was a victory of the fingertip, proving Phelps's ability to execute a perfect finish under supreme pressure.
And finally, gold medal 8, the 4x100-meter medley relay, breaking Spitz's single games record of 7 golds.
History achieved. The U.S. team set a new world record. Phelps, swimming the butterfly leg, took the team from trailing both Australia and Japan to a decisive lead. His 50.1-second split remains one of the greatest relay splits ever, setting up namesake to bring home the gold. That moment, 8 gold medals, 7 world records, it just secured his place in the highest echelon of athletic history.
Now, given the scale of that success and the new world records he was setting in virtually every swim, media speculation about performance-enhancing drugs was, well, inevitable.
It was, and it was absolutely necessary to address. Phelps participated in a crucial initiative called Project Believe. This was a voluntary program run by the United States anti-doping agency, USADA, that subjected him to testing far in excess of the standard WADA guidelines.
What made Project Believe unique?
It was an act of transparency. Athletes volunteered for a regime that included numerous out-of-competition tests and samples taken outside of the standard windows. And the source confirms that during the Beijing Games alone, Phelps passed all 9 tests administered to him. By submitting to this extraordinary level of scrutiny, Phelps aimed to remove all doubt about the legitimacy of his accomplishments.
Following Beijing, we saw another strategic pivot point that affected every swimmer: the introduction of the infamous high-tech suits in 2009.
This was a genuine crisis for the sport. The 2009 World Championships were so heavily influenced by these new, full polyurethane suits, the shark suits, which were designed to dramatically improve buoyancy, reduce drag, and compress the body. This technological leap essentially broke the record books temporarily.
And this led to his famous loss in the 200-meter freestyle.
Exactly. He lost to Germany's Paul Biedermann, who wore the Arena X Glide suit. Biedermann not only defeated Phelps, but crushed his world record. Coach Bowman reacted so strongly, claiming Biedermann had an unfair advantage.
Right, he was furious.
He was. He threatened to withdraw Phelps from international competition, stating publicly, "It took me 5 years to get Michael from 1.46 to 1.42, and this guy's done it in 11 months." It was a commentary on the purity of the sport versus technology, and it ultimately led to FINA banning those suits in 2010.
But Phelps didn't let Biedermann's win, or the suit controversy, define his meet, especially not in the 100-meter butterfly against Ajovic.
No, he took that loss in the 200 free, he internalized the motivation, and he just channeled it into the 100-meter fly. Ajovic wore the exact same Arena X Glide suit and had even offered to buy Phelps a new suit beforehand again, providing that essential external taunt.
He always gives him the material.
Always. Phelps responded on the clock, winning the gold, setting a world record of 49.82 seconds, and becoming the first man to complete the 100-meter butterfly under 50 seconds. The celebration was fierce. It proved that even amidst a technological disruption, his sheer willpower and competitive drive were unmatched. As we transition into the 2012 London Olympics, we're seeing an athlete who is already, I think, exhausted by the regimen. London was marked by preparation for what Phelps truly thought would be his final retirement.
He initially qualified for 8 events again, but he strategically dropped the 200-meter freestyle, sensing he needed to conserve energy and prioritize the relays.
And the London Games started with an early stumble. He finished 4th in the 400-meter IM. This was his first failure to medal in an Olympic event since 2000. It was a signal that the endurance required for the 400 IM at age 27 was starting to wane. However, he quickly course-corrected, finding his best in the shorter events.
And he immediately broke an important non-swimming record.
He did. Oh. With a silver in the 200-meter butterfly and a gold in the 4x200-meter freestyle relay, he surpassed the Soviet gymnast Larisa Latynina for the all-time record for most Olympic medals on his 19th overall. And Latinina, a 9-time gold medalist herself, called him deserving of the record, kind of passing the torch to the new all-time medalist.
He also achieved an incredible historical feat in London, winning the same event in 3 consecutive Olympics.
He achieved that unique triple-peat in both the 200-meter IM and the 100-meter fly. And his victory in the 200-meter IM made him the first male swimmer ever to win the same individual event 3 times consecutively. It just speaks volumes about his longevity, his consistency, and that sustained mastery in his core disciplines.
He concluded the London Games with 6 medals, 4 gold, 2 silver, and immediately retired with a final, very absolute statement.
The quote leaves absolutely no room for doubt. "I'm done. I'm finished. I'm retired. I'm done. No more." He was burnt out. He said he wanted nothing more to do with the sport. He had achieved every measurable goal possible in swimming.
But the reality of life outside the rigid structure of Bowman's pool quickly proved challenging, and it led to a resurgence of personal issues that had shadowed him throughout his career.
The legal issues provided a stark contrast to his competitive discipline. His first major incident came in 2004 with a DUI arrest, which resulted in probation. Then in 2009, post-Beijing, that infamous photo of him using a bong led to a 3-month suspension by USA Swimming.
Right.
But the consequences of the second incident in 2014 were far more severe.
What happened in September 2014?
He was arrested again in Baltimore on charges of DUI and speeding. The consequences were profound. A 6-month suspension from USA Swimming, and his removal from the U.S. team for the 2015 World Championships. And without him, the U.S. men's team failed to qualify for the finals of the 4x100-meter freestyle relay, a disaster that starkly highlighted his irreplaceable value, even in his absence.
So this arrest, it becomes the catalyst for his ultimate turnaround and his comeback in 2014. What specifically motivated this return, given how definitive he was about retiring?
Initially, I think the failure of the relay team provided some competitive motivation, but the real shift came when he sought professional help. That 2014 DUI arrest prompted him to enter a 45-day residential stay at the Meadows Treatment Facility in Arizona. This was the turning point.
This was bigger than swimming.
Much bigger. He revealed that after the 2012 Olympics, he struggled intensely with depression and had contemplated suicide. This period of treatment was about saving his life, not saving his career.
And he convinced the skeptical Coach Bowman to take him back. But the condition was different this time.
Yes, the condition was crucial. He wasn't training for history or for the fans. He was training, quote, for himself and enjoy the journey. This represented a fundamental change in mindset. It was about personal well-being and fulfillment rather than external expectation and medal counts. He was now swimming with a purpose beyond just winning. He even sought advice from NFL legend Ray Lewis before the 2016 Games, seeking mentorship on how to maintain competitive intensity while managing life structure.
And despite that 6-month suspension, when he returned to competition at the 2015 U.S. National Championships, the competitive speed was immediately evident. It proved the hiatus hadn't diminished his talent at all.
It was remarkable. He won gold medals in the 100-meter fly, 200-meter fly, and the 200 meters IMM. In all 3 events, at age 30, he swam the fastest times in the world for 2015. The comeback was real, and it was driven by a far healthier, more focused athlete.
So he reached his final Olympics, Rio 2016, his 5th Games. And a completely different Michael Phelps arrived in Brazil.
He was visibly more relaxed, more sociable. The team voted for him to be the American flag bearer, which was the first Olympic opening ceremony he had ever attended.
That's amazing.
It's a major emotional shift from his isolated, rigid preparation in previous years. He was accompanied by his fiancée and his son, Boomer. It just emphasized the importance of his support system. This was the mature, final phase of the Joe.
Rio had several dramatic moments, but if you had to pick one visual snapshot that encapsulated his competitive intensity that year, what would it be? Was the hashtag Phelps face really the peak, or was there more tension unseen?
The hashtag Phelps face was pure marketing gold. It captured the rivalry perfectly. The tension with South Africa's Chad Leclos had been mounting, especially after Phelps implied the current butterfly times were slow during his retirement.
He couldn't help himself.
No, he couldn't. And that famous moment occurred in the ready room before the 200-meter butterfly preliminary, where Leclos was showboating, shadowboxing near Phelps. Phelps responded with that iconic glower in a corner, which immediately became an internet meme. That glare wasn't acting. It was the focused killer instinct reasserting itself.
And Phelps backed up the stair, winning back that 200-meter butterfly title from Leclos.
That was his main comeback goal, reclaiming what he felt was his territory. He won, edging out Masato Sakai by 0.04 seconds. At 31, he became the oldest male individual champion in Olympic swimming history, an impressive display of late career longevity.
And his individual victories in Rio were true history-making moments, breaking records that stretched back centuries.
The most profound was winning his 4th consecutive gold in the 200-meter IM. He became the first swimmer to win the same individual event 4 times. But the historical connection came with his 13th individual Olympic gold medal. That number broke an ancient Olympic record set by Leonidas of Rhodes, who had held 12 individual titles, roughly 2,168 years ago.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
It is. I mean, Leonidas won titles in running events like the Stadion across 4 separate Olympiads. There were no time measurements, the events were totally different. For a modern athlete to surpass a record set at the very foundation of the Games through the highly measured technical sport of swimming, it just emphasizes the span of history Phelps' achievements cover.
And he ended his career with his 23rd gold medal in the 4x100-meter medley relay.
On August 13th, swimming the butterfly leg one last time, he and his teammates secured the gold, breaking the Olympic record. He retired for good, cementing his status as an anomaly. A swimmer winning multiple gold medals at 31 years old, well beyond the typical peak for male swimmers. He proved that mental clarity and renewed focus could trump the biological constraints of age. So when we look at the quantitative legacy of Michael Phelps, the records extend far beyond just the Olympic medal cabinet. His career was defined by this constant erosion of world records.
How many total FINA world records did he set throughout his career? I know it surpassed even the mighty Mark Spitz.
Phelps set 39 FINA world records in total, 29 individual records and 10 relay records. This surpasses Mark Spitz's previous record of 33 total records. This prolific rate of record setting really confirms his era of dominance. The sources also mention he holds 20 Guinness World Records, predominantly for cumulative achievements like most medals or most consecutive Olympic gold medals, the highest number of cumulative Guinness records held by any athlete.
Let's focus on the key long course world records he set that really defined his ability, even if some of them have since been broken by the next generation.
The defining individual records he established, often in that hyperfast tech suit era, include the 100-meter butterfly at 49.82 seconds in 2009, the 200-meter butterfly at 1.51.51, also in 2009, and, the most durable of all, the 400-meter individual medley.
4.83.84 in Beijing.
It's from Beijing, right. That 400 IM record stood as the ultimate physical benchmark for 15 years.
And even post-retirement, his influence still shapes the world record landscape through the relays.
That's right. His speed remains the global standard in 2 relays. He still holds the world record for the 4x100-meter freestyle relay set in 2008 in Beijing and the 4x200-meter freestyle relay set in 2009. The ability to lead a team to world records confirms that his success wasn't just individual. His contribution elevated the performance of every American team he swam with.
And beyond the pool deck, his legacy is recognized through numerous honors and awards, signaling his cultural impact.
The recognition is widespread and diverse. He received the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year in 2008. The ultimate hometown honor came early. A street in Baltimore was renamed the Michael Phelps Way back in 2004. And critically, following his successful and deeply personal comeback, he was recognized with the Laureus World Comeback of the Year Award in 2017.
And all the Swimmer of the Year awards.
An astounding 8 World Swimmer of the Year awards and 11 American Swimmer of the Year awards.
But the most significant transition in his post-swimming life has to be the shift toward mental health advocacy and philanthropy, taking the lessons learned from his darkest moments and applying them to help others.
This is where his vulnerability really became his greatest strength. After the 2008 Olympics, he immediately used his $1 million bonus from Speedo to start the Michael Phelps Foundation, dedicated to promoting healthier lifestyles and growing the sport of swimming, particularly for children.
Can you detail the core mechanism of his foundation's work, the IM program?
The IM program, which stands for IM, is a curriculum developed in collaboration with organizations like the Boys and Girls Clubs and Special Olympics International. The focus is on 3 key areas: active lifestyles, goal setting, and water safety.
So it's basically his life structure packaged.
It's essentially an adaptation of the rigorous discipline structure he learned from Bowman. It teaches children to set achievable goals and track their progress, using swimming as the core mechanism for discipline and health. It's the institutionalized legacy of his competitive methodology.
And his own public journey with depression and ADHD has led to formal recognition of his advocacy work.
It has. He's moved beyond just sharing his story. He's actively engaging in the solution. In 2017, he joined the board of MediBio, a company focusing on the objective diagnosis of mental health disorders, lending his considerable voice and experience to science. And in 2019, he received the Morton E. Ruderman Award in Inclusion, specifically recognizing his courageous advocacy for people with disabilities and his incredibly public journey with mental health struggles. This final phase, where the former solitary man becomes an outspoken advocate, provides a powerful and redemptive context to his entire career arc. #OutAttribution.
So we've traced the arc of Michael Phelps, from a hyperactive 9-year-old dealing with a parental divorce and an ADHD diagnosis, all the way through 2 definitive failed retirements and 2 career-defining comebacks, ultimately culminating in global advocacy.
The key takeaways are just striking. The unparalleled medal count, 28 total, achieved not just through raw talent, but relentless consistency. The pivotal, decades-long drill sergeant relationship with Coach Bowman, which provided the vital structure needed to manage his unique physiology and psychology.
And the resilience.
And the sheer resilience demonstrated by pushing past personal struggles, legal issues, depression, and contemplating suicide to find redemption and reach new athletic heights in Rio.
It's that final transformation that really matters most, I think. Bowman himself noted that while Phelps was a solitary man with a rigid focus before a race epitomized by that #Phelps face afterward, he was an unbelievably kind-hearted person, deeply invested in the success of others. The sources really show us a journey from a driven young man focused solely on beating Mark Spitz's record to an athlete who found true fulfillment in mentorship, advocacy, and being present for his family.
And that leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. Considering his record-breaking longevity and success, achieved despite battles with ADHD, depression, and 2 failed retirements, we have to ask, what quality raw genetic talent like his wingspan and large feet, the disciplined, almost military-grade training instilled by Coach Bowman, or that sheer emotional motivation, fueled by rivals like Thorpe, Bernard, and Milevich, or maybe just the internal need for structure, what was the ultimate driving force behind his unmatched career? Phelps tapped into all 3 at various stages, but which one do you believe sustained him across 5 Olympic cycles and made him the greatest racer who ever walked the planet?